Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on this Monday, July the 7th. Monday. We have a little bit of Cam Ward content to react to in this wasteland that is the NFL landscape right now as we inch you closer and closer to training camp. Cam Ward had his digital media team down in Miami for some offseason workout stuff that I think you guys are really going to enjoy. So we're going to get a chance to watch that and hear some of his commentary on Calvin Ridley. And then we can have a discussion about how special that connection could be, if that connection can be special in 2025. So we'll look forward to hearing from your starting quarterback on your starting wide receiver here in just a little while. We'll also see what Bert has prepared for in case you missed it at the end of the show. Before we get started, need you guys to share the broadcast around on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch, wherever you are spending your wonderful and valuable time here with us. We appreciate when you share the broadcast. If you're hanging out on Twitter, please retweet the show in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. If you're on Facebook Live, you can share. You can share now to public, and that, of course, is in the bottom left. YouTube and Twitch, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and if you're so inclined, text the link to a friend if you want to, and invite them to come hang out with us as we talk about the potential for what could be between Cam Ward and Calvin Ridley in this new look Titans offense. We will see how much you guys are optimistic about it, because I think you guys are it's tough to be down on or to kind of dismiss any level of hyper optimism about Cam Ward. Everything about Cam Ward is sunshine, roses, and butterflies right now. But it is fair to look at the potential for him and his number one wide receiver by default, just because there's no other better wide receiving option on the roster than Calvin Ridley. It's also fair to have a discussion about Calvin Ridley finally breaking through that ceiling with legit quarterback play as to whether he can be considered a wide receiver one without the qualifiers, or is he simply just the wide receiver one on this team because he has to be? That is something we could talk about together. William Jones says football is a month away. Yes, we are. Training camp is less than a month away. Training camp is 2 weeks away. Preseason football, if you consider that to be football, yes, that is just about a month from now. So we will work our way through that next month and get you ready with all kind of position battles. There's not a ton of position battles to talk about on this roster, but there are some fun things that we will be able to look at. We're going to be on the road for 9 straight days during training camp. I'm going to take you guys to Tampa and Atlanta with me when the Titans go on that 9 straight day road trip. The radio show is obviously going to be there. And so, too, will the primetime show as well. Cam Ward's burner on YouTube says of Calvin Ridley is a wide receiver one because he is paid to be. Well, that, I think, is a conversation worth having, because when you look at his contract next to other players that you would consider to be wide receiver one on their respective rosters, well, then he really isn't anywhere close. He's at the very, very high end of the number 2 wide receiver contracts, but not paid like a wide receiver one, even though he got a substantial amount of money last year. And in terms of the guarantees, yeah, he's nowhere close on the pay scale of wide receivers to even being in the that kind of category. But we can talk about, can he break through and can he outplay his contract, when last year I think he simply lived up to the contract because he was a 1,000-yard wide receiver on a 3-win football team. And him and Tony Pollard were really the only ones producing on that side of the ball. So anyway, without having the conversation before we get to it, let's go ahead and start the show. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on this Monday, July the 7th. I'm your host, Buck Rising, and I am proud, as always, to be presented to you by the wonderful people at TrueMav Fitness in the Gulch. Your first workout is free as a Middle Tennessee resident. No workout ever recycled or repeated. TrueMavFitness.com for more details. By Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. Online at tworiversford.com. Quality American-made Ford vehicles and award-winning customer service and employee pricing for everyone at Two Rivers Ford. the South's most trusted Ford dealer. Okay, so with Cam Ward and Calvin Ridley, the reason why this is even a discussion today. So I guess Cam Ward, and I didn't see this on his personal YouTube channel, but apparently Cam Ward does have a YouTube channel, and that's a smart thing for him to have. It's just simply under his name, Cameron Ward, and there's a lot of behind the scenes footage. There's videos like him going #1 overall, his call with the Titans, which from 2 months ago. It's about a 15-minute video. It's just basically background on Cam Ward. In fact, while I'm here, I should probably subscribe to Cam Ward's YouTube channel so I see as much stuff as you guys are probably seeing. And he's got about just a little under 30,000 subscribers at this point in time. And it's him going and working out at the Cleveland Browns facility pre-draft. It's him now that he's been drafted by the Titans down in Miami, returning to Miami to get some offseason work in South Florida with Chigakonkwo, with Xavier Restrepo, Chimere Dike, and Alec Iamaner are also in attendance at this. And that, last I looked, has about 98,000 views on YouTube. It's a 20-minute video, and it's it's what you expect it to be. Now, fully acknowledging that I'm not the target audience for that. You guys are. You guys probably eat stuff like that up, where it's just you see Cam Ward and his interactions. You get some of the personality. You get to follow him along as he goes through a little bit of offseason stuff, and it doesn't hurt right now that there's nothing else going on. So it's the closest thing that Cam Ward content that you can actually get. But with the background on this, it's 20 minutes, and it's just him throwing routes on air and having personal interactions with the players. It's nothing very super in depth or super detailed, but it's just enough for you guys to scratch that itch. The only relevant thing from my standpoint, like new information, what I'm looking for when I see anything like this is, all right, what is in there that I may not otherwise have access to via practice or interviews, and what can I learn about this player? And it was really until like the last 5 minutes of the video that there was something like that. And it was Cam Ward after his throwing session at the University of Miami indoor practice facility. He goes for a weightlifting session after he gets through with the throwing session with all the wide receivers and tight ends that I mentioned. And I don't know if this was unprompted. I don't know if he was specifically asked about Calvin Ridley, but he did give a little bit of insight on why he likes working with Calvin Ridley, or why he's so excited to be working with Calvin Ridley. You'll hear that here in just a second, right after I ask you your Two Rivers Ford take here this evening on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. How high would you rank Calvin Ridley among NFL wide receivers? Like, is he, what if you're going 1 to 32, like the best wide receiver on every team? And some teams have better wide receivers, have two better wide receivers than Calvin Ridley might be. Where would you rank Calvin Ridley? Is he top 50? Is he top 30? Is he top 25? Where is Calvin Ridley? When you think about the name Calvin Ridley, where does he stack up as far as wide receivers in the NFL right now, heading into next year, based on his resume and also based what he still has left in the tank? You guys let me know in the comment section. We'll talk about it together. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, like I mentioned. You do that, and I will remind you that your Two Rivers Ford take is made possible by the South's most trusted Ford dealer. That's Two Rivers Ford. Quality American-made Ford vehicles and award-winning customer service is what they offer you. Go to Two Rivers Ford and get employee pricing for everyone, which means you pay what they pay on almost every new Ford on the lot. That's Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet, or online at tworiversford.com for more details. So a lot of you are submitting where you would rank Calvin Ridley next to other wide receivers in the league. Let's see. Top 32 simply says BJ on YouTube. Matt's got him in the top 20. Cam 1 has him at 55 overall among qualified wide receivers. I'll be able to give you where he ranks in terms of last year's receiving statistics, in terms of his yards, in terms of his receptions, in terms of his touchdowns scored. We can also get into some of the advanced metrics on it, because I do have things like, I do have the Pro Football Focus premium stats subscription. I also have FTN Fantasy, which is the DVOA yards per route run, all these different kind of advanced metrics that you talk about when you also look at wide receivers. For Steven Rodriguez on Facebook, he's got him at 18. Cam Ward's burner has him somewhere between 25 and 32. So towards the bottom of the best, if you took the best wide receiver on every team and stacked them, he'd probably be towards the bottom in that situation. And that's fine. Calvin Ridley has been in the NFL a long time. He's had more ups than downs, certainly. And Calvin's never been a bad player. There are some inconsistencies about his game, and I think he worked through some of those last year. And at least even though the situation didn't improve, I do think that Calvin Ridley found ways to individually improve. But of course, it's not an individual sport. MB says, I'd put him in the top 20. I take into account the quarterbacks that he's played with. And last year's quarterback situation, we know very well, was a disaster. Also, Trevor Lawrence, in his most recent stop prior to signing on with Tennessee, Trevor Lawrence has had struggles of his own, and Calvin Ridley still found ways to produce, despite being in an offense that, with Trevor Lawrence, we've talked about, he underachieves a little bit. So here are some of the highlights from the throwing session before we get to Cam Ward's comments on Calvin Ridley.
That's good. That's good, Joe.
So just a couple of highlights there, and that's him working out with Chimere Dike. You hear him chirping out there. Chig Okonkwo apparently was a little later to the workout, so Cam Ward is on video giving Chig a hard time about showing up late. Chig obviously spends a lot of time in South Florida in the offseason. And then we get to the post-throwing session workout, and this is where he speaks about Calvin Ridley.
That boy there, different. How you move, everything. Now that I see what a receiver's supposed to be like, that's why I'm glad, Elliott, Chim, Strip, Bryce, all the guys in our room, I'm glad they got him because, I ain't never threw no receiver like him to move like him, can cut like him, and that boy, he ain't selfish either. He want the rookies, all of us, he want us to do better than him because he gonna end up getting his one-on-ones.
So Cam Ward heaping praise upon Calvin Ridley, and he should, right? He's clearly and obviously Ridley, the number one option on the Titans roster. And he would have been the best wide receiver that Cam Ward has ever worked with because Cam Ward just got to the NFL, and why would he know any different based on practice? And Ridley obviously has very high-level traits, even though he's at a more advanced age relative to some of the better players in the league. But let's just go through some of the counting stats. Now, these are not the most important because, again, wide receiver is the most dependent position on another position on the football field. Calvin Ridley, if you just went in terms of his receiving yards, would rank 21st. He's right between Jacoby Myers and Nico Collins with 1,017 yards. In terms of targets, Calvin Ridley would rank lower than he would still be 21st, as a matter of fact. He had 120 targets last year. Keenan Allen had 121. Terry McLaurin had 117. Receptions in total. How many of those targets did Calvin Ridley end up catching? Calvin Ridley would then rank further down, and we know that he had some drops earlier in the season. He would be further down that list. He's tied for 45th with David Njoku, the tight end out of Cleveland, and Atlanta wide receiver Darnell Mooney, who's had a pretty solid career with both Chicago and Atlanta. Then you get to touchdowns. And again, Jamar Chase is at the top of this with 17 touchdowns. That's a completely unrealistic goal for anybody. 17 touchdowns, 17 receiving touchdowns is batshit crazy. When you have to keep scrolling to find Calvin Ridley. And as I look at this, Calvin may not even have qualified among the top 50 wide receivers last year, or top 50 pass catchers, even easy for me to say, but I do not see Calvin in the top 50 of qualified pass catchers. So this would be all receiving touchdowns. DeAndre Hopkins was 50th with 5 receiving touchdowns. You have to go to 62 before you find Calvin Ridley, who is tied with a variety of other players. Kyle Pitts had 4 receiving touchdowns. So did Calvin Ridley. Guys like Tyler Conklin, Jacoby Myers, Jerry Jeudy, but only 4 receiving touchdowns for Calvin. There weren't a lot of receiving touchdowns anyway. There just weren't a lot of touchdowns generally in the Titans offense. Now, there are some metrics where Ridley will look better as far as yards per route run and things like that once you get into the more advanced stuff. But just for the simplicity of the conversation, you find Calvin Ridley anywhere from a top 20 player to, when it comes to scoring, outside of the top 50. Now, that is not entirely his fault, right? That's not, Calvin Ridley has been open more times than the Titans quarterbacks were able to get him the ball. I would say that Calvin, I'd pretty comfortably put him inside the top 25. How that ends up stacking out, who would end up being a better player than Calvin Ridley. I think that when you talk, Nico Collins is a better player than Calvin Ridley, and he's a younger player than Calvin Ridley, but he had almost as many receiving yards in 12 games as Calvin did in 17. Again, quarterback play impacts that in a huge way. But if you look at what Calvin Ridley does, it's also a tribute to Calvin that he was out there and available and gutted it out, even in a terrible season, his first season with the team, and he played all 17 games at this point in time. That whole situation for him, it wore on him. Certainly, as we talked to him throughout the course of the year, you could tell that Calvin was anywhere between annoyed, frustrated, and just kind of over it towards the end, and how we were all over it. Last year's Titan season was a drag on everybody and anybody involved or paying attention, and God knows on the players, because not only are they losing every week, but they're getting questioned on, hey, why do you guys just suck this bad? And that's a tough thing for anybody to have to go through. But, I think anywhere between 28 and 25 heading into 2025, if you put Calvin Ridley among qualified wide receivers, that's probably just about right. Just based on players who had less receiving yards that I think are better players than Calvin Ridley, Nico Collins, Mike Evans, DK Metcalf is an interesting discussion. I think that Puka Nacua is a different kind of player, but Puka only played in 11 games last year. Still almost had 1,000 yards in 11 games. But that's probably as far down as I go. Now, would Puka Nacua succeed in another offense that's not the Rams? I couldn't answer that question because he's only played for the Rams, and you see what a success he is inside that system. But that feels about right for all of this. Thomas Secor says Burks isn't in the top 500. MB says, would Burks be in the top 100? Well, I mean, last year, if we just went on last year's statistics, oh God, how far would I have to go before Treylon Burks even registered? He's outside of the, let me see if I can just Command F this really quick. I don't want to spend too much time on it because it's not, man, we are going outside the top 300 looking for Treylon Burks. We are at 350. No Treylon Burks. 400 Treylon Burks. Can I get a Treylon Burks for 400? 355. 355 with 34 receiving yards in 2024. There is Treylon Burks. So you would find 354 qualified wide receivers that in some way, shape, or form would rank above Treylon Burks. That's been the story of his career. Now that's a real extreme, right? Because he obviously didn't play and then he was shut down for the rest of the year. 355 is pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. MB says, Buck, sorry, I was trolling. Yeah, I didn't want to. Like I said, if it took much longer than that, we would have not kept going. But I mean, I wonder just how many players are even. Yeah, so he's 355 out of the top 500 qualified players. So that would pass catchers. So, I mean, that ranks with quarterbacks who caught a pass last year or got a target. Hell, J.C. Latham technically had a target, even though he didn't have a catch, and he's 464. So, I mean, it's kind of the Treylon Burks experience summarized, where I mean, you get down there, the only Mason Kinsey, for what it's worth, was 397 with 17 receiving yards, and 34 yards is all that Traylon Burks was able to contribute on four catches. Let me make sure that I've got the right statistics here. That's 4 receptions on 5 targets. He had 34 yards on 4 total receptions. Rashid Jenkins says that's still high. Well, no, not when you consider that number 500 on this receiving list is Trevor Lawrence. That. If I read some of the names, I wonder how many of the names you'd actually recognize that I read above Traylon Burks on this list. We don't have to go through that whole exercise, but there are dudes who barely played any football last year that had a more meaningful on-field impact than Traylon Burks did. But yeah, there are quarterbacks who had more receiving yards than Traylon Burks did last year. Not many, but that list also includes quarterbacks that were split out wide and had a target. Tough scene. Anyway, so as you look at Calvin Ridley and Cam Ward, if Cam Ward hits, then Calvin Ridley will become also a huge part of the conversation among NFL wide receivers. If Cam Ward becomes a star, his number 1 wide receiver will likely also be a star. Right now, that is by default, if not by actual merit, Calvin Ridley. We'll see how much further they can take that connection. We'll have plenty more time to talk about, how Calvin Ridley can make an impact, who else can find ways to make a meaningful impact on the field, but we'll have plenty of time to do that in the coming days and weeks as we get you closer and closer towards training camp. In the meantime, though, we will welcome Robert in case you missed it. I don't know if he's been paying attention to any of this at all. I don't even know if he's back there because he's been playing the new college football game. EA College Football 2025, I think, became available to people today. So I'm sure he's not the only one that's been glued to a gaming console. I just can't imagine him shirtless. Hopefully it's just shirtless, likely naked, sitting in an office chair playing college football while we talk about the connection between Cam Ward and Calvin Ridley. We'll get to Bert and whatever he has brought us for in case you missed it momentarily, right after I remind you that the Primetime program is made possible by TrueMath Fitness in the Gulch. Go to TrueMathFitness.com. Your first workout is free as a Middle Tennessee resident. No workout ever recycled or repeated. Just the best in the business. That's TrueMathFitness.com. Your first workout free. Andrew Brown says, what are the odds he's awake? I'm shocked that you're here.
Yes, you caught me in between practice. I'm currently working on a midterm. I'm trying to get this girl to stop bothering me about taking her to a sorority invitational, and I'm trying to compete for the starting job. I just beat out the cat
as
for
a
the backup job. Yes, as a quarterback. I sent you the picture of me officially becoming the backup quarterback of the East Carolina Pirates, and I just got a passive-aggressive ass text from our quarterback right.
Oh, you're lucky that the digital background does not allow me to show. Oh, I'm trying to out you here, but it won't let me. It won't let me. No.
Someone will have to pause it. Someone will have to pause it to see my super offensive nickname that I'm sure EA Sports will ban within the next couple weeks. I got a passive-aggressive ass text from the quarterback who's actually starting for our team that said, "Hey, welcome to our quarterback room. I think we have the best room on the team, but don't think you're taking my starting job anytime." So I'm eagerly awaiting the option that his girlfriend will ask me to take her to a party, to which I will oblige.
So the game are you making these things up like midterms and sorority formals, or are they like the game provides you distractions that you can either accept or decline?
Yes, you can either choose, you can waste your energy to study harder for a test, which I have a 3.0 GPA. I'm an athlete. I didn't come to school. Every couple of weeks, my advisor's like, you have all C's in your classes. A's do not get you drafted, lady. I'm trying to get on the field. So all my points are going into making me a social media star and experience points. But that is neither here nor there. I want to know what team, if people are out there playing college football, it's 2026. It's like cars. Every year is the year ahead number than what you're actually playing. So if you guys are...
Rashid Jenkins says you should go cuck the starting quarterback's girlfriend.
100%. That is the plan. The dude isn't even that much better than me. He's a senior with 2 higher overall. You're talking to a redshirt freshman. Dog. I didn't play in no games my freshman year. Sat back and learned in the lab. Oh, Bert is going to get on the field, and Bert is going to make some plays. I picked East Carolina because that's my alumni. But what they've done this year, they added a lot of cool shit to this game, by the way. Like last year, every time you started the game, you had to listen to this terrible drum line. They have added songs, popular songs, but they are a band, a college band playing them. It is a lot of fun. And you'll randomly hear, like, I've heard the Utah fight song. I've heard Middle Tennessee's fight song. They just play a bunch of different fight songs. So super cool stuff. I haven't even got to experience recruiting in a dynasty. I've been playing this probably, when did I get home? 3 o'clock. I've been playing this for about almost 5 hours, 4 hours. And I will plan on continuing to play it until I'm the starting quarterback. Cheyenne came in here, and if you're out there listening and your girl's like, "Ah, damn it, that game came out, he's going to be on that game all day," bring her in this, because this shit will ask you to be like, do you want to study with Mary, or do you want to skip studying and go and hang out with Carly?
Ooh.
And Cheyenne has been helping me. She has been helping me manage my roster. It is a very Love Island situation. Can I pull you for a chat, Mary? She has also gotten me into a lot of trouble. My DMs got leaked once, and scandalous pictures of me have been leaked. Cheyenne has been leading me down a terrible road.
Excellent.
But I'm holding on best I can. I want to know the best stories out there. Spending five is evil, or is Yule? What is that? Is that an old word I should know?
No, I wasn't sure. I think she becoming Will Levis. Becoming Will Levis is what she said. You're going to become Will Levis. Spend 5 hours on that video game.
Oh, if I could. Where's my Gia Duddy, baby? Oh, baby. Oh, oh no, a sex tape is leaked. My advisor was telling me, "Oh, if you have good grades, you can go to the league early." I'm like, they are not going to want me early. They are going to want me when they don't have a choice. As soon as I get somebody like that on my roster, Carly, Amanda, anybody with labs.
You want me to put in a good word? Gia goes to my gym.
If you see her, let her know that I'm about to be the starting quarterback at ECU. And I got real tan over the July 4th weekend. Look, oh boy. Bang, dude, I should be the starter.
Oh my God.
This is spam, right? It's got to be spam. If you guys are out there and you want to call a spammer, call it spam.
Yeah.
That's my mom. Spam. Crap. Just doxed my mom's number. Anyway.
All right, very good. Get off the screen.
That's what I've got. All right. See you.
All right, that's going to do it for us tonight, mercifully, so Bert doesn't get us in trouble. Appreciate you guys hanging out as always. Radio show tomorrow is going to be a lot of fun. It's always fun from 10 to 1 p.m. on 104.5 The Zone. Come see us. Come hang out with us. Subscribe to The Zone's YouTube channel, and you can watch the show with Robert, with Lucas, and with me. And we'll look forward to having you a part of it. We're going to have some good Tennessee Vols conversations tomorrow. Also going to touch on the Titans as well. And I think we have Joe Willis from Nashville SC on the show, the best professional sports team in the city of Nashville, because the Titans and Preds are ass. So until such time as they, get better, Nashville SC with 14 consecutive unbeaten results is really leading the charge and saving this city from the sports wasteland that the Titans and Preds have plunged us all into. So have a great rest of your evening. Look forward to hanging out with you tomorrow from 10 to 1 on 104.5 The Zone. And the next time we talk on primetime will be Wednesday.
Acapella. Here we go. What's my name again?
Jonathan Davis.
Can you introduce me as if I was like at
on Saturday Night Live?
Yeah. Like it's Saturday Night Live.
No, it's Bonnaroo week. Let's do it like he's the headliner. He's headlining Saturday night at Bonnaroo.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jonathan Davis.
Sometimes I cannot take this place. Sometimes it's my